Hello, welcome to episode 2. This episode, what we're doing, I'm basically gone through my mobile phone, going through the voice memos app, looking for stuff that I might want to put on the next album. Found a song called Quit, which sounds a bit like this. Doesn't sound a bit like that, it sounds exactly like that. That's what I found. I basically record voice memos when I've got ideas for songs. I recorded that back in October last year, by the looks of it. Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of stuff on here. I've got hundreds of songs, but it went through, found that one, liked it. That's what sometimes happens. You sometimes go through these things. You like a song. I'm going to go through that now and just attempt to knock off some rough edges and turn it into a fully fledged song. There's approximated lyrics in there. I don't really know what I'm going to be doing in terms of the capo and the strumming pattern yet, but it's a start of the 10 and I'm starting. So I've listened to that a bunch of times now and tried to decipher what I was rambling on about when I sang that song, what the lyrics are meant to be doing, and then trying to come up with some sort of a structure. What I've come up with so far is the first verse. The song's about quitting, I figured out. It's all about, I think, it's weird, isn't it, deciphering your own stuff. You got to figure out what you mean by the first verse and maybe have some sort of continuation of that in the second verse. So the verse I sang was, when you've got nothing left to give and all you want to do is quit, that's all right. It's like if something's too hard to do, it's not worth doing, which I think Homer Simpson once said. Sit alone in your comfort zone, have a beer and stare at your phone. It's all right. You got a chorus here, which is, and if it's all you can do, if it gets too much for you. I'm not sure exactly how this chorusy bit's going to be sung yet, but I've also figured out that the strumming pattern for this will just be downward strumming, because I can feel that the overdubs that I've got in my head would go quite nicely with that. And also I think that I could probably get away without using a capo on this one. So this would be like a capo-less song with like a downward strumming. So this is where I've arrived now. It will sound something like, when you got nothing left to give and all you wanna do is quit, that's alright. Sit alone in your comfort zone, have a beer and stare at your phone. It's alright. Yeah, and it's all you can do when it gets too much for you. Yeah, and it's all you can say, so just say it anyway. Something like that so far is where we're up to. So the next thing we're going to do is just go through that now and just come up with a mid-late. I've kind of got an idea for a mid-late, which I think is going to be E minor D A, which will go kind of, so after that chorus it will kind of go, where does it go? So you end the chorus on the A and then the mid-late will go so that's where we are with this at the moment. The next thing that I'll do is just probably try and figure out some sort of a tempo as well, and then sing the whole thing with a click track into Cubase, and then start doing some more arrangement-y type stuff. So it's a couple of days later now. I have played the song a few more times, scribbled down, I'm not 100% sure on the lyrics of verse 2, but I've got enough that I can start playing to a click track. I know what I'm doing for the mid-late and some other bits and pieces, roughly what I'm going to do with the whole arrangement. I'm going to play it to a click track now. I spent some time also on Friday, before I did the Twitch bar, I just played through the song a few times, and I recorded myself playing it in front of that camera just so that I kind of had another variation of it. So now, play it to the click track, so I've got something to start working on as a demo.
So just say it, say it anyway. And it's a long way to the top, so I tried. And it's a long way to fall from that high.
In the words of every other musician that's probably played to a click track, that'll do. Okay, it's now day 3 of doing this stuff. Just trying to, not 3 whole days, just I've got a bit of time here, a bit of time there. You know it is. Grown up commitments and all that kind of stuff. So basically what we've got here is I've got to somehow show you, this is where it starts to get complicated, because I'm filming, I'm using a lapel mic at the moment so you can hear my vocals, and then it's quite difficult to use Cubase whilst also sharing the audio from Cubase. I can share the screen. If I press play, you might hear a bit of it on my lapel mic. It's kind of not important for this next bit, so I'll show you what I'm going to do. So what I'm doing here is I'm adding a new track, and I'm going to add, this is a really cool thing about Cubase. There's lots of cool things about Cubase after spending a lot of years using Cakewalk, a very old version of Cakewalk. You've got this thing called an arranger track, so what I like to do now is to figure out the sections to just make it a little bit easier when I'm doing overdubs and figuring out bits and pieces. So if I do that, this is basically a way of me labelling sections, which is quite useful. Oops. If I do that, I'll call that intro, because I can tell, you can always tell by the sound waves there, that's the intro. Then I start singing, that's verse 1. There we go. So we can actually see the track all laid out in front of us. How much do I sing? Verse 1. I'll probably cut this to the bit where I've actually labelled all these sections. I'll call this bit outro, because that's what it is. I could have had it as one section and called it final chorus. I'll do that. Cool. The other cool thing about this, putting this stuff, this track here, the arrangement track, is the labelling makes it easier to look at when you're doing stuff to it, but also the other cool thing is you can actually click this button here, where is it, that one there, and you can see right now it's playing intro, verse, chorus, middle, instrumental, chorus, outro. But what you can do is you can actually mess about with it, and you can make it go, right, in the old days I'd have had to, if I wanted to go, what happens if I play the verse round twice, or make that twice as long, or I play the chorus one last time at the end, double up on the chorus, I'd have to chop it up and do that. Whereas this arranger track lets you just, with these bits you've got here, you can go, I want to play it with the chorus played twice there, and then I want the outro played here. You wouldn't want that, obviously, you don't want it to go chorus, outro, middle, but if you wanted to, you could, and that would now, if I press play here, rather than on the main transport bar, it'll play it in this funky order there, which is good when you're trying to come up with ideas for arrangements. So there we go, we've got a full track with some idea of how it goes and what the sections are. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to mess around with the drums to think, because everything's built on the drums, so it's a good thing to start with, is whether I want it to kind of be quiet or loud. If I want like a ride to come in on the chorus, obviously Scott will do a better job later on of making real drums, but it's nice to have an idea. Like I might think, yeah, I'll have the drums come in on verse 2 or straight after the intro or whatever. So that's the next thing I'm going to do, is just play around with these drums and see what I can come up with. So we go into one of these drum sections here, put it on, drum editor mode, and then you can just loop a little bit of it. Let me get that, loop a little bit there. Bum, 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 bum. There we go. Oops. Switch the arranger track off. So I can just play this over and over again and obviously make tweaks to the drums. I could go, let's put an extra kick in here. And stuff like that. So that's what I'm going to do now, is fiddle about with drums.